has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great son, Sajifo Dr. Nkrumah.
And good morning to you wherever you are across the country. Thanks for choosing the Mother World Talk Shows. ALHAJI and ALHAJI this morning. We are live in the studios of Pan-African Television. We are live on Pan-African Television. We are live on several affiliates across the country. On television, we are live on Volta 1 TV 2 is one of the television channels that's currently taking us live. We are live on Facebook, on Pan-African Television, and also on Radio Gold 905 FM. We are also live on Adanfo Pan Media in Paris. And we are live on YouTube, Pan-African Television. So you continue to us through any of those platforms. Big thank you to affiliate radio station, specifically Ahunto 92.3 FM. They are taking us live here within the Greater Accra region. My name is Sena, Nombo. It's my pleasure to welcome you to another edition of the show post-election. And we are still doing the discussion around what happened during the election, because we are now finding out, and also post-electoral issues. Well, that's what we'll discuss this morning. At some point in the show, I'll read to you what the people of Guan are saying. They've issued a press statement on the fact that they feel disenfranchised both in the presidential and parliamentary elections. And I'll read to you that statement. But welcome to the show. We'll take a short break. When we come back, I'll introduce my panel and the topics, and then we'll start the discussion. Stay with us.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead.
Morning is an important time of the day because how you spend your morning can often tell you what kind of day you're going to have. I want you to have a great day. So start your day with me because I can guarantee a great show every weekday on Good Morning Africa right here on Pan-African Television. I will be serving some inspiration, news, business, health, newspaper review, music, and so much more. Join me, Kwame Owusu Danso, on Good Morning Africa on Pan-African Television. Let's have a truly African morning. Medasi.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He's the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sergeant Fokwa.
Welcome back from that particular break. Once again, welcome to the show. With me this morning in the studios is Mr. Kwesi Prajina, who is managing editor of the Insight newspaper. Murtala Ibrahim Mohammed, comrade, is Member of Parliament elect for Tamale Central. And then sitting right beside him is Mujib Rahman, who is a member of the MPP's communication team, and closely sitting, right, very, very close to me, is Gabriela Teta, who is also a member of the NDC's communication team. And we'll be discussing issues in relation to the elections. We'll start with the issues surrounding the presidential elections, and then we'll spend some time in Parliament, because yesterday the Sena West issue was resolved, but the NDC is still insisting that in case of Zabzugu and also the Chiman South, there was no coalition done and there was no proper declaration done. So they count those seats as still outstanding. But the Electoral Commission has allocated those seats to the New Patriotic Party. So we'll spend some time in the second round in Parliament. But let's start with the issues surrounding the presidential elections. And of course, I'll start this morning with Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. But very importantly, don't forget that your views are very important to us. So if you're watching us via Facebook, just use the comment section, share your thoughts with us, I'll read it. And also, you can use the number that's on your screens if you're watching television or watching Facebook, and send us a WhatsApp message or a text message. I'll also read that out. But let's start. Issues surrounding the elections with Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Mujib hasn't done that. I thought he would have had this space, and you have to see that. So that's what he has congratulated, and I want to really let me say good morning to your viewers, of course, and senior comrade, my sister, and my brother, and of course your good self. I haven't been here at the elections, and I would love to use the opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to the people of Tamale Central. So, a lot of them, they really also watch this program, and I'm going to congratulate you for the confidence with which I was given the mandate to serve them. And I can assure them that I'll do my utmost best. Lifted up to serve them as they expect. And I have said that I haven't been elected as a member of parliament, you become an MP for everybody in the constituency, regardless of their political persuasions. At the moment, we are facing the challenge, and for me, that is the more reason why I didn't have the opportunity to go around to young people. What we are facing today, for me, is more important than what we faced prior to the elections. At the end of the day, we must know the right for moving out of the years to the elections. And there's no doubt in anybody's mind that Mr. Nari, our going president of the Republic of Ghana, never won elections. There is no question about that. The NDC raised a lot of concerns about the elections. We have maintained that Jim Manson, who is a family relation of the first lady, was appointed to do a bidding for Mr.
Okay.
I remember on this program.
I apologize. I'm being told there's a small issue with your sound. So we'll just take a short break so that can be fixed, so that he can continue his delivery. We'll be back shortly.
Hello, what are you doing Tuesday to Friday, 7:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. every day? You should be watching The Couch. I'll tell you why. On Tuesdays, we talk social issues, lifestyle, health, all those everyday issues that affect us. in the big ways. Late Wednesdays are for book reviews. Thursdays are for the hard talk, those socio-economic, policy-oriented, political questions that demand for the tough questions to be asked. And personality profiling Fridays, when we get to know the stories behind the winning personalities we love. Inspirational story from inspirational personalities. Hey, listen, you really cannot miss the couch with me, Amma, but still, the only TV show with a hat.
Morning is an important time of the day because how you spend your morning can often tell you what kind of day you're going to have. I want you to have a great day. So start your day with me because I can guarantee a great show every weekday on Good Morning Africa right here on Pan-African Television. I will be serving some inspiration, news, business, health, newspaper review, music, and so much more. Join me, Kwame Owusu Danso on Good Morning Africa on Pan-African Television. Let's have a truly African morning. Medasi.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great song, Sajifo Dr. Nkrumah.
Welcome back. I believe now the sound should work, and for Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed to be able to speak on the issue of the elections.
Well, I was saying, is we went into an elections prior to the 2020 elections. The NDC raised some concerns, and elections are just a process; it's not an event. There are certain things that ought to be done before the D-Day for the elections. Right from the appointment of Jean Mensa, you remember on this same program, I raised concerns about her appointment. I did indicate that she was not going to be a neutral arbiter. I indicated that she was a family relation to the First Lady, and I don't think that anybody has denied that except my senior comrade Kweku Baku, who said on Metro TV that they were not, she wasn't a family relation. And the last time I checked, Kweku was not the spokesperson for the Jean Mensas or the Rebecca's or the Akufo-Addos. So, and in this country we are so gullible that certain statements are made by certain individuals. That ends it. And I insisted after that that she was a family relation, and also she had never had any working experience anywhere apart from IEA, an organization that was formed by the husband. If she had any experience anywhere working with any institution, I stand to be corrected. Now, we raised these concerns to add injury to assault to injury. They appointed my former senior and lecturer, Dr. Bosman Asari. I remember when I was a teaching assistant at the psychology department, Dr. Bosman Asari had finished his, I think he was doing his master's then at the political science department. And if you know Legon, political science department and psychology department are just on the same compound. And at that time, we all knew which political party who belongs. And he was an active participant of the MPP activities on campus. Subsequently, he became the patron for TESCON, an MPP wing on campus. So he knew I knew who he was, and he became my lecturer. I remember when he was appointed, 2 days after the appointment, less than a week after the appointment, when concerns were raised by many people about his profound affiliation to the MPP. He came to the department, and he used to frequent the department almost every day, because of course he was the head of the political science department when he was given the appointment. And I had a chat with him, and I was blunt. I told him that people were not comfortable because of his MPP. He couldn't deny, because I knew him right from our students' days, and also even at the department when he was the patron for TESCON. And he said, look, Mutala, I'm going to surprise the people of this country. I'm going to be very fair-minded, and I will do the most honorable thing. Indeed, he surprised us. He surprised that by not being fair. He surprised that by dancing to the tune of the appointing authority, in this case, Mr. Nanado. He surprised us by doing something that nobody could fathom. Because mind you, the first statement he made officially was that the NDC was a threat to the democratic growth of this country. And I think that right from that time, what this government could have done, the outgoing government, they should have asked him to leave. Because if you are supposed to be a neutral arbiter in a matter such as organization of an elections, that you show your absolute and open bias against a particular political party, you deemed not to be fit to do the job for which you were appointed. Now, all these issues, fell on deaf ears. When NDC was raising it, you had the hypnotized section of the Ghanaian media and the clergy, unfortunately, and some of the civil society organizations who felt that the NDC was just making noise. And that, yes, they never denied the fact that they had affiliation with the families and also affiliations with the MPP. But the argument they made, I remember at that time, was that they were appointed in their capacity as people the government felt had the expertise to do the kinds of things they did. Now, apart from that, prior to the elections, the NDC raised concerns about overprinting of ballot papers. I remember when those concerns were raised, there were a lot of people in this country, the hypocritical section of the Ghanaian media, and those who indeed consider themselves as doyens and protectors of our democracy. They said the NDC had no basis in making those allegations. I guess events that indeed happened during the elections vindicated the NDC, because a gentleman was caught with ballot papers already thumb-printed Mr. Nanado in Asawasi. A lady at Circle was caught with hundreds of ballot papers already thumb-printed Mr. Nanado. Another gentleman in Ejisu was caught with ballot papers already thumb-printed Nanado, and he was in a vehicle SUV with other the other two individuals, making the number 3, with a bag full of the thumb-printed ballot papers. When the gentleman was caught, the others bolted with the vehicle and the thumb-printed ballot papers. Last week, I was on Newsfile with that condescending man at the Electoral Commission, one Dr. Silbo, and he quickly defended that the one who was caught at Asawasi didn't have the stamps and the serial numbers of the Electoral Commission. And on that same program, I asked him why he quickly responded to that of Asawasi, but not responding to that of Ejisu and Circle and many other places where individuals were arrested with thumb-printed ballot papers. And the matter is so serious because the thumb-printed ballot papers contained the stamps, which is an exclusive property of the Electoral Commission, and serial numbers. So those who had chastised the NDC for raising these issues, when we had palpable evidences that they had overprinted ballot papers, and the purpose for the overprinting the ballot papers was just to pad the NPP and Nanado's vote in the 2020 election, I think that those people owe the NDC an apology. They certainly won't do that. Now, during the elections, there were concerns raised by many people, and Sena, myself, the returning officer in Tamale Central, we had petitioned the Electoral Commission because we had evidences on his social media page, his Facebook page, where he did open campaign for the MPP. I knew who he was when I was in Nkrumah House, prefect at Tamale Teacher Training College. He had come his first year, and I knew his political affiliation. We all knew who each other was. But then I was standing, as recent as 2019, he had campaigned vigorously for the NPP on social media. We petitioned the Electoral Commission with pictures and everything of this. The Regional Electoral Commission officer indicated that he did the needful by writing to the headquarters, perhaps recommending that the gentleman be changed. But he also told us that this decision was supposed to be taken at the headquarters. As a matter of fact, we petitioned the Regional Security Task Force, which is chaired by the Regional Police Commander and other respectful individuals in the region. All these concerns fell on deaf ears. And I can give you countless examples where NDC parliamentary candidates indeed had challenges with regards to those who were supposed to be manning this huge responsibility as returning officers. And the reason why this thing is very important is because of events that we experienced during the elections. Now, all these concerns raised by the NDC were pointed to the fact that there was an orchestration masterminded by no less a person than Mr. Nanado to rig the elections because he knew that he had performed abysmally. He knew that his government supervised the most corrupt and robbery, governance ever in the history of this country. So the only way he could win the elections was to steal the mandate of the people. And all these concerns the NDC raised, those who are now shouting on the rooftop, if they had added their voices, I don't think we would have been where we are. We went into the elections. The NDC realized that in many of the polling stations in Ashanti region, in particular, they padded Nanado's, vote. You know what they did? In order for them to appear smart, so that the NDC wouldn't think that they are doing that just to give Nanado the advantage. In a particular polling station, they can give John Dramani Mahama 10 and give Nanado 90. So invariably, they have increased all the presidential candidates. They increased President Mahama 10, give Nanado 90. Now, if you check in Ashanti region, we had over 6,000 polling stations. Now, even if you are going to give Nanado 20 in all the 6,000, you are talking about 120,000 votes that will be given to Nanado. And the 120,000 vote can determine the winner of an elections. And it was not only in Ashanti region. In northern region, Bushegu in particular, they increased Nanado's votes by 100 and reduced President Mahama's vote by 900. That tells you the level of robbery that we had in these elections. Sena, I can tell you, without any equivocation, even the EC system, the declared results, is not what they have in their system. I can tell you that without any doubt. Now, all these things were done, yet still, the people of this country still rejected Nana Addo. Now, we get into a process. There are rules and regulations governing the conduct of elections. The Electoral Commissioner herself went to Parliament with Regulation 4010 CI 127. Nobody forced the Electoral Commission to do that. She went there and demanded that Parliament passed a law making the declaration of the elections results to be done once, no room for correction, no room for recomposition, no room for anything, and that it should be done in public with the presence of everybody. In this case, if you had the media that was present and all the TV and radio stations, one can assume that the entirety of this country were present when the results were declared. The Electoral Commissioner, Jean Mensa herself, violated the very law that she saw to be made by Parliament of Ghana. She declared the results of the elections at the time when the NDC had several concerns. How are results of elections declared? At the polling station, every single political party participating in the elections has an agent. And that is why the officials of the Electoral Commission will start the processes at 6 o'clock. They would have considered and take inventory of all the electoral materials brought there and to see whether it will be enough to satisfy registered voters in that particular polling station. For example, if this room is a polling station and you have 300 registered voters in this room as a polling station, the Electoral Commissioner will send more than 300 ballot papers. Mind you, some of the ballot books contain 100 papers, some contain 50, some contain 25. Now, if you have 300 registered voters, the presumption is that all the 300 people may come to vote. So the Electoral Commission can send maybe 3 booklets, that is 100 papers booklet each. So if you send 3 booklets, you would have sent 300 ballot papers, and maybe another booklet which contains 50 or 25. The possibility of spoiled ballots. Now, having done this, all this, the inventory of this will be done. Now, if you come to vote, you come with your voter's ID. The electoral officer will look at your face and look at the face in the voter's ID, and then then you go through the verification machine. Now, when you go through the verification machine, it will register. 1, political parties reps at the polling station will all tick. Then you go through where they will tear the ballot paper for you. Then you go and vote. So at the end of the exercise, they must do what they call ballot accounting. The ballot accounting simply means that in fact, it must tally, the ballot accounting must ensure that people who have voted in the ballot papers issued for voting should be the same number as registered in the verification machine. Of course, there may be instances where someone may not be accepted through the machine. You can do manual verification, but that is when the machine is not able to capture the person. But assuming that the machine at the polling station captures everybody, the number of people the number of ballot papers issued for voting and the number of people recaptured in the verification machine must all tally. And in fact, it must tally with the ticking of the various political parties. Now, before you even start counting, you would have done all this ballot sampling. The reason why this is not only necessary but essential is that you don't want to experience overvoting or undervoting, because the CI is very clear. Where there is overvoting, the presiding officer at the polling station, who can be described as the returning officer at the polling station, will not be able to declare the winner of the elections, particularly the parliamentary at the polling station, if there are challenges with the processes, overvoting or undervoting. Now, assuming that at this particular polling station there was no problem, voting is done, counting is done, every political party would have agreed. The presiding officer will enter the scores of the various political parties, both presidential and parliamentary. Political party agents haven't certified that the results as declared by the presiding officer at the polling station is the true reflections of what happened there. They will all append their signatures. Now, copies of what they have signed will then be given to them as pink sheets. Now, at the end of the exercise, they would then match the ballot box with their pink sheets and the presiding officer to the coalition center. When they go there, each of the polling stations in the constituency will do same, both presidential and parliamentary. What they simply describe as coalition is that all political parties would have had their reps at the coalition center, including the constituency returning officer. Now, when they sit there, they call polling station by polling station. When they call polling station 1, Pan-Africa polling station, the NDC agent, MPP agents, and the presiding officer and the other political party will match the ballot box with their pin sheets inside. Now, they would have looked at the pin sheets. If you all agreed that that was what happened there, then they take it as they record it. The conglomeration of the various polling stations determines who wins the parliamentary seat in that particular constituency. The one by law with the authority to declare the winner of the parliamentary elections is the constituency returning officer. And that tells you how critical that individual is and why we raise objections with regards to the returning officer in Tamale Central. And the reason why several other constituencies, people raise objections, the Electoral Commission refused to listen to them, and the problems we have today are the problems that we encounter as a result of the deliberate orchestration by Jean Mensa and Mr. Nanado. Now, the presidential elections, the raw scores of each of the presidential candidates would have also been announced. But because the returning officer has no authority to declare the winner, because mind you, the Electoral Commissioner herself is the returning officer of the presidential elections. All these things are done. Now the NDC realized that unlike 2016, by the next second day, NDC had all our pink sheets across the country. Now at the strong room of the Electoral Commission, all parties have their reps. The NDC had our pink sheets already. So when results come, what the Electoral Commission does over the years is that it comes region by region. So when this particular region results comes, all the political parties with your pink sheets and your information, you either agree or disagree with the results transmitted to the Electoral Commission. You know, it is not for nothing that the Electoral Commission, just a few weeks to the election, said they were not going to do the electronic transmission, that they were going to do it manually. All those things fed into the agenda of the Electoral Commission to rob the mandate of the people of this country for someone who has an incessant quest for power. Now, these things were done. The NDC, this time around, they left the NDC for 2 days. First day, on the 8th up to 9th, the NDC, there was no single resource that was transmitted through the strong room of the Electoral Commission. Now, they knew what they were doing. They suddenly did it 5-7 regions and uploaded it on their website. Now, yet still, the NDC people in the strong room were able to detect that, look, the results you are giving us is not the true reflections of what happened at the polling stations and in the various constituencies. Because we were smarter enough to have our pink sheets. Perhaps the MPP and the Electoral Commission thought that what the NDC did, you can describe it as recklessness in the 2016 when we didn't even have our pink sheets. They thought that the NDC was going to be as reckless as we were in the 2016. But we were very meticulous. The NDC raised objections about that. Jean Mensa refused to heed. But let me just cut long story short. The NDC petitioned the Electoral Commission. And the petition was taken to the, mind you, at all this time that the NDC and the other political parties were in the strong room, in her arrogant posture, she was in her office up there. Afarijan, Charlotte and Co. sat in the strong room because you supervised the elections. She was upstairs. When the NDC then did the petition and they said they should send the petition to the reception. They went to the reception, there was no way, no one there. And the NDC was denied access of sending the petition. This is not the first time. In 2012, the NPP petitioned the Electoral Commission. Those hypocritical peace council indeed intervened. The Electoral Commissioner, Afarijan, and the MPP and the NDC sat and resolved the matter. How different is that with the petition the NDC had? Now we then realized that cook figures were put there. Now the violation of the very law that Jean Mensa herself made. She declared the results more than 5 times. In fact, the last time was 6 times. Because if you declare results and then the next day, in fact less than 24 hours, you come out and make some additions, some corrections in the very results that you declared and said that it was a mistake. A script that was written, determined, you came to read, and then you tell us that you made a mistake. I mean, it's just unfathomable. The other issue that we all need to raise about this matter is that when she came out and changed the figures, my math is not that good, but you can't change the numerator and the denominator and then expect things not to change. She changed the figure. You know what happened? Only President Mahama and Mr. Nanado's figures changed, percentages changed. The other aspirants, the other contestants in the presidential elections, their percentages and results stayed same. It doesn't make sense. Rejected ballots and the percentages therein with regards to the rejected ballots stay same. Now if you have 100 and you consider 10 rejected ballots, and then the 10 rejected ballots can give you, let's say, 10%, for example, of the rejected ballots. Now you came out and said, no, the thing was more than 100. In fact, it is supposed to be 110. Certainly, in computing percentage of the rejected ballots, it will change, because you take the rejected ballot over the total times 100. That is how you determine the percentage. In the case and in the voodoo mathematics and corrupt dealings of Jean Mensa and Mr. Nanado, the percentages or the percentage of the rejected ballots didn't change. The percentages of President Mahama, the raw figures and the percentages changed slightly. That of the other contestants didn't change. Now if you are able to compute percentage out of 100 and all those who participated in the elections, there is no reason and there's no way you can recompute them with either additions or subtractions that the percentages of two candidates will be affected, but that of the other candidates will not be affected. It doesn't make sense. And that is the kind of things the president of the National House of Chiefs, rather embarrassingly, and I listened to him on Joy, saying that in politics there are compromises and that the NDC must compromise. When I listened to him, I asked myself, is that what politics has done to our enviable traditions and authorities? I'm a royal myself, and at any point in time it ought to be protected. Some may have their views about it, but the extent to which you can say that in politics there are compromises and that the NDC must compromise. And I thought that he was going to say that in politics there are compromises, that all the disputants in these elections must take some compromising position. But for you to say that in politics there are compromises and that the NDC must compromise. Another saddest aspect of it is the media. And the sad thing in this country is that the media can criticize anybody. They can talk about anybody, but no one dare criticize them. It has emerged that they were getting their feed from the NPP. It has emerged that you have media houses that gave NPP 149 seats. TV3 did that. You had Metro TV that also gave 100, and it's understandable. Paul Adumachiri, you know, is benefiting from this government, and it's about his pocket that he sat there and made those statements and arrogantly defended Sena. Then you have Joy FM that said that Kintampo of the MPP candidate got about 27,000, when in actual fact he got 17,000. All these issues are issues that people are raising. The question then is, does the NDC have the right to embark on the demonstrations that we embark upon? I can tell everybody, including those bunch of hypocrites, that these demonstrations are going to be intensified. Article 21 clause 1D of the 1992 Constitution gives people the right to embark on demonstration as a means of addressing their issues. And the Public Order Act 1994, if I'm not mistaken, you know, no, Act 419, 1994, is very clear that the police have a duty and a responsibility to provide security. They don't give us the authority to demonstrate. The Act didn't say we should seek authority from the police before anybody can embark on demonstration. In any case, you hear a lot of them saying that if NDC has a case, NDC should go to court. Court should be the last resort. Why do people go to court? You go to court when you are not able to find a resolution to a dispute or an issue. You don't go to court when there are several means by which you can find a solution. And one of those means are that the Electoral Commission and the electoral rules are laid down clearly there are processes through which you find a resolution. We haven't exhausted those processes. And those who argue that way, how about Savulgo? Savulgo was initially declared for MPP. The NDC demanded that the right things should be done. When the right things were done, where is Savulgo now? Savulgo is a seat won by the NDC. It's the same thing applicable to Sena. And today you listen to some hypocritical journalists. They say that no, the demonstration of the NDC is affecting the economy. I watched a TV station, was it the day before yesterday, that a journalist, with all due respect, who ought to look at the ethics of the profession, says that your demonstration is affecting businesses. This morning, another TV station before I came here, they said that it is affecting governance and security. Where were those bunch of hypocrites when the NDC and the MPP lost the 2012 elections without a scintilla of evidence? Without a scintilla of evidence, they didn't just embark on demonstration. They vandalized properties. And I remember a gentleman who went and picked his kids from school. His vehicle was vandalized. Windscreens were broken. You know his crime? He had JM poster on his car. His kids who were seated in the car were traumatized. 2 years after the incident, I listened to that same gentleman being interviewed on a radio station. And the gentleman said that the kids were still traumatized. 2 years after the incident. Where were those people? Where were those? The chairman, the president of the National House of Chiefs, where was he? The media, where were they? Today, suddenly, people exercising their democratic right as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic, those people are seen as people who are destabilizing the peace and security of this country. We have a simple message for them. This demonstration is going to continue unabated until someone is forced to do the right thing. And let those who think that the only means by who you can have a resolution is to go to court, they should never underestimate the will of the Ghanaian people to protect their votes. Many people do not belong to NDC and MPP, but they voted. They have the right to know who they voted, and they knew who they voted for. They demand that the right things be done. How sacrilegious is recollating? And when we come to the parliamentary seats, maybe perhaps we'll look at some of those issues. But how difficult is it that if the NDC is demanding, let's sit down and do the right thing? You quickly say they should go to court. The judiciary, it will be an indictment on them. And in this country, let people understand, the judiciary is not sacrosanct. As if you cannot criticize the judiciary. And that is the impression that is created. The former Chief Justice herself said the judiciary was corrupt. The former Chief Justice. Tell me an institution in this country that is not tainted with corruption under this disastrous leader of a government. The extent to which the NPP with alacrity would tell us to go to court, they should be telling us, and the judiciary should be telling us the reasons why every single thing they say is go to court. When we haven't finished with the processes of resolution to a matter as enshrined in law, yet they quickly tell us that we should go to court. They should be telling them. But I have a simple message for all judges in this country. You may have the authority by law to determine the fate of people or institutions or political parties. Do it justly. Whatever you do, remember, there is a day you stand before your Lord and you answer questions. If it has to do with palming or oiling your palms, for you to do that, remember. If it has to do with your hatred for a particular group of people or a political party, remember. If it has to do with any other motivation, remember. And I think that for me, it's a wake-up call to the judiciary system in this country, that any time anybody raises concern, they say go to court. And surprisingly, you have traditional authorities and religious organizations. Kodeo, you remember they were one of the few people who came and started praising this government, only for their spokesperson to say that yes, they got their feed from the MPP. And then you have a sheikh who came and said that the Electoral Commission did an outstanding job. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. And to be very honest, how embarrassing and disgraceful. Even in Islam, something you don't have facts on, don't speak on it. How could you determine? You say that yes, they did an excellent job, and that the results they got, the figures they got are in line with the figures you got. The Electoral Commission has since changed the figures 6 times. Has Kodeo changed their figures? Has the sheikh come out again to say that, oh, sorry, the figures that we got from the Electoral Commission, since they have changed their figures, we also want to change our figures. I think that it is important for those who are demanding that the NDC cease this demonstration to also respect the will of the Ghanaian people. This demonstration may be called by the NDC, but I have seen many people who neither belong to NDC or NPP participating in this demonstration because they want their vote to be counted. And for me, that ought to be respected at any point in time. We will continue with this. In fact, it's going to be intensified, and let them get that very, very clearly. So they should not create the impression as if demonstration is an illegality. Where were they? Where were they when the NPP was embarking on demonstration?
Thank you. Before I go to Mujib, let me just read this statement that, okay, it's a comment from Eric Delanyo Alipo Esquire, who says, good morning, and says, one, do we know that serious election disputes do often end up in violence and sometimes very protracted conflicts? Two, do we know that in many of such instances, the courts are unable to help either because they may not be bold enough or they may be compromised? Three, he says, in fact, that is why the processes leading to and during elections through to the declaration of results must be truly transparent and safeguarded by all. And four, in the run-up to our recent elections, there had been several causes for the main opposition party to complain. And in more than a handful of situations, CSOs, labor organizations, and even chiefs have had cause to complain. Each time, the EC had brushed off the complaints, and everyone rested by taking things for granted. Now, what the NDC has suspected all along and had constantly complained about, but was not ignored by the EC, the media, and many who are now trying to calm tempers, has happened. I think those who could have intervened earlier to ensure that we had a free and fair elections, but for various reasons known to them alone, failed to do so at the appropriate time, must now put pressure on John Mahama, must not now put pressure on John Mahama and the NDC to act in any particular way. I think also that the peace pacts that the main candidates are normally coerced to sign before elections do not take many factors into account, and in my view, may be incapable of preventing serious conflict if there's obvious cheating in the elections. Finally, I think it is important to understand that there may be baseless, bogus, frivolous, and unmeritorious complaints by some after elections, but there may also be very serious ones, which may result in very serious conflicts. Every enlightened person can spot this, so people must not pretend that the issues we have at hand now are similar to those in the NPP's 2012 elections petition. That's from lawyer Eric Delanyo Alipo. Mujib.
Sena, thank you very much for the opportunity. And your topic on the issue surrounding the conduct and declaration of the elections in Ghana, which happens on the 7th December 2020, especially for the presidential elections. I am not surprised, or I would say we are not surprised, the stand and the posture of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, and the flag bearer, former President John Dramani Mahama. So now I listen to my brother, Honorable Mutala, MP-elect for Tamale Central. I try to go back to right from the appointment of the Electoral Commissioner, John Mensah. And the question I ask myself is, we are Ghanaians. Maybe nobody knows the relationship between President John Dramani Mahama when he appointed Madam Charlotte Osai as the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. What I am care to know as a Ghanaian is that the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, the Bible, mandates the president anytime there is vacuum at some of these independent institutions. It is vested in the president to consultations with other relevant stakeholders in this country to nominate people to occupy those offices. So, trying to link it up as if there were something secret or something underhand by getting Madam Jean Mensah to be the Electoral Commission is maybe one of their those things that they are trying to add up to further maybe confuse or try to build up their case as if something seriously was planned even before Jean Mensah was appointed and getting the elections skewed in some way in favor of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Now let me remind you, after the appointment of Madam Jean Mensah, and she was was just going around, just introducing herself and a team to senior politicians and senior members, stakeholders in this country. When you go to the president said, you don't need the Electoral Commission support to win elections in this country. And some did not agree. But I asked myself, this was somebody who won election from opposition. It's nice to agree that sometimes the incumbent has power and has more advantages than your opponent in opposition. Then I can understand sometimes you can win elections convincingly without even the support of the Electoral Commission, because we have had instances like that. President Kufuor won elections in 2000 in this country, when from opposition. So I agree with what the president said. But you see, we have to be very candid and very frank to ourselves as a people. Sena, this country belongs to all of us. We have forefathers have struggled, they have put this country together. Our fathers came, they continued, and we have seen, we were young, but we have seen in recent times like what people like Comrade Kosu Pride and the rest, what they have done to try to shape the future of this country in terms of political. So we may disagree in terms of some of these issues, but I ask myself, what is the end game? Like my brother said, for the right to demonstrate, it is enshrined in the Constitution. As long as you follow the due process, you can continue to demonstrate the number of years you want. Nobody prevents you from that. But you ask yourself, in that process, but you should also even respect the fundamental human rights of other people who may not share your views, who may not share your opinion, but who are also decent Ghanaians going about doing their duties in this country. So I ask myself, what is the end game? Should we destroy this country? And I don't think that is the best way to go. But on that score, I will commend the Ghana Police Service so far. We have experienced seeing demonstrations across the country by the National Democratic Congress. And so far, I think the police has been professional. We have not experienced any intense trying to control them, especially what we saw 3 days ago when the members mass up and trying to march the Electoral Commission. They were trying, they prevented them, they used professionalism. Some were arrested. Yesterday were taken to court, but they have been granted bail. But these are all the channels, the processes that we are following. But I again ask, who is mandated to conduct, supervise, and declare elections results in this country? It is the Electoral Commission. And what the NDC are claiming now, I don't think this is the first time maybe it has happened. Maybe the scenarios may be different. But in 2012, a political party disputed the outcome of the elections. So now, a lot of things happened, but eventually landed in court. At the end of the day, they did not get what they want in terms of overturning the verdict by the Electoral Commission, the declaration by the Electoral Commission. But we succeeded in getting some improvement and exposing some deficiencies in our electoral system, of which all of us agree. But let me even tell you something significant happened. In the 2012 election petition, President John Dramani Mahama was the president. Madam Charlotte Osai, she declared, was the president then. Then he was controlling, he was the head of state. Then we have the judiciary, we went to Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court verdict, I'm coming about that, was not unanimous. It was 4 against 5. So today, I am surprised from where I'm coming from. Today, I don't really actually understand or know what exactly they are calling for. You haven't even been there, but started chastising the apex institution, the Supreme Court, or trying to prove as if maybe because they are appointed by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, that trust is not there, or eventually if we get to the Supreme Court, we might not get what we want. I think that is not the best way to go. But you see, when maybe at a point you seem not to have a case, or to the extent that you are too much frustrated, then you don't even know what to do. So now when this whole thing started, they castigated the institutions, the military, the police service in this country, and under the media. But I don't have a problem. But you see, those are the institutions we have. And you've been in government before, you've worked with those institutions, you know how professional and how impartial they are. Today, why are you lumping all of them together? When you know, indeed, that is not the best way to go. So I was worried. And we know we are family members who are NDC members. You have friends who are NDC. We are not fighting. So we were talking, why are you lumping all the security forces and you are condemning them? What is your even today, supposing you were the people declared to be the winner, and which institutions are you going to work with? Is it not the Ghana military force or the Ghana police service? So what is your problem now? Comrade asks, where do we want to go? What are we? I can understand, but eventually my problem is, anyway, we will only continue to wait and see how things will pan out, because I have gotten the assurance here from my friend that there are going to be more serious demonstrations in this country. But I will only remind them, much as it is their right to demonstrate, but they will also adhere to the rules and regulations governing before you can embark those demonstrations. And even in the process, you should still be very careful, and then it doesn't lead to excesses. But for court, they have also produced a lot of evidence that they have. And they felt that this is what we want. Sena, nobody is saying that it is not within your right to ask for what you want. But you have asked for it. How do you get it? Within you, yourself, you know the right appropriate place. That when you go and you are able to convince and bring your evidence, that can expose the Electoral Commission. That is true. Or maybe, comrade, sometimes let's just be very fair to ourselves. Apart from even disputing the electoral results declared by the Electoral Commission, the posture and the conduct of the Electoral Commission, if indeed they felt they were arbitrary and were not fair in their dealings, that alone the NDC can go to court. Based on Article 296, that created the independent institution and how they should function and how they should treat everybody, individual or institutions or organizations in this country. So as and when you felt that they are not being fair, if not being treated justly, and they are arbitrary, you can go to court and get the court to order them to do what is right, what they are supposed to do. That is number one. That is aside the dispute of the electoral result. But now you said you want auditing, you want the results to be relooked at. Who can? And you know the Electoral Commission. So no political party you can't order the Electoral Commission to get what you want, but you can use the court to get the court to order the Electoral Commission for a political party or an individual to achieve what you want, if you are able to convince the court. That is the basis on which people felt that, yes, of course, you may have a case. You are adducing a case. That is your right. We respect it. But the peace of this country is paramount. The future of this country is what we are looking at. So you have 6 million plus. This NPP has 6 million plus. There are other Ghanaians who are out there who didn't even go to vote. But their rights must also be respected in this country. So how do we get all these things resolved? And I think that is the basis on which some people are calling or advising the NDC and former President John Dramani Mahama to go to court. Not for any bad malice or so. No. That is, maybe if I'm coming from MPP and I said it, you may not maybe take it serious. But within you also know probably that may be the end result. Because for demonstrations, you make your issues aware. You draw the attention of the country. You draw the attention of the international community. But at the end of the day, that might not put what you actually want on table. For instance, let me just refer to them. You didn't want the EC to go ahead with the compilation of the new voter register that we have used to conduct the just ended elections. But because you could not use the demonstrations, you cannot stop them. Eventually, we sat here many times and we said, no, this thing will end in court. Eventually, NDC landed in court, even though it did not go their way. But at least they accepted the court verdict and we moved on. So we are in a different stage now.
And you all know, my brother Senior, you all know at the end of the day, that is the best way to go. Comrade, sometimes let's be very kind and sincere to ourselves. People have principles. So now you may appoint me, but I have my principles. And the first thing is to defend this country or to project this country. The fact that maybe I'm a judge, you have appointed me, then that doesn't mean when the facts are there, and then maybe I'll be very surprised. But I think that it is too early, and the NDC doesn't have a position of try to not to trust the court. So now let me ask, how do they get the Sene West parliamentary seat now, which they have added and made it 137? How do they resolve it? Did we use guns to resolve the Sene West? Did NDC and MPP use guns to kill themselves? Do their supporters mass up to demonstrate? No. I saw, Honorable, I saw your people in court. Our people were in court. The court ruled and directed the Electoral Commission to go ahead and went ahead to find the new patriotic party. And eventually, the Electoral Commission counted the ballot, and NDC won, and that settled the matter. But you have, maybe you haven't said it, but if you are also listening, you have seen your members and your senior members of your party say, what are we going to court to do? When the court, all the judges have been appointed by the president. And what is the meaning of that? Maybe you have not said it, but you know your people are saying it. Okay, I'm telling you. So that is what they are saying. So that is basically the issue. So all what they are saying, nobody has a qualm with that. Nobody is preventing them. Nobody. But we also have right to say what we want to say. After all, as we also collected our results. We knew what we were in for. But the Electoral Commission has done the needful. So you disagree. We disagree with the Electoral Commission before. So if you are disagreeing with the Electoral Commission today, it's not a new thing. But my worry as a citizen first of Ghana is we will not jeopardize the future of this country. That is the peace of this country. That is my position. Other than that, they are allowed to do what they want to do within their right. But they should be mindful that Ghana belongs to all of us, not only the National Democratic Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mujib. Let me just do a few of your comments and I come to Gabriela. Idi Gideon Muntari. By the way, before I do the comments, I am saying those comments on Facebook about the sound. Well, it has been worked on, but I'm sure you can hear us. It may not be the best, but I'm sure you can hear us. So please bear with us until it is fixed completely. Idi Gideon Muntari is saying good morning, and says, I feel so sad and disgusted following some pronouncement emanating from some so-called know-it-all personalities in Ghana, who in the recent past were quiet, but has suddenly found their voices by condemning the NDC for no basis. I believe they are those who know to nothing and are irrelevant to the society, hence their nefarious calls. Thank you for that. ALHAJI Hadi in Pikfam says, a doctor who invoked a storm on his people cannot prevent his house from destruction. I am a Ghanaian, and whatever affects my country directly affects me. I'm calling on all those who matter in bringing peace in our election before, during, and after to call on EC-led Mensa and her cohorts to call them to order before one day they will throw this nation into war or conflict. In fact, some media people in Ghana are the reason why Mother Ghana is not moving forward under this super incompetent and substandard family and friends government. You say, thank you for that message. There Farouk in Tamale North says good morning and says the victory of the NDC in Sena West constituency has revealed that MPP never won genuine elections in Ghana. NDC will not allow the sovereign will of Ghanaian people to be subverted. Michael Okan in Nungwa says, who are the people asking the NDC party to concede defeat? Defeated by who? Look, no one is more Ghanaian than the other in this country of ours. The right thing must be done. Errors everywhere, and no civil society group is talking about that, yet you want us to listen to you. There can't be peace without justice. Serve us justice, we give you peace. Those who said we should go to court, what is in a courtroom is an insult to the judiciary. Hashtag change the stolen verdict immediately. You see, thank you for that, Charles. Nyamina Samanke say the NDC has been consistent in their claims from day one, so nobody should should try diverting it. The issue is that using the EC's own change figures, the results point to a runoff, whereas that of the party's coalition points to John Mahama's victory. Bottom line is, Akufo-Addo did not win these elections. They rather used guns and a section of the media to rig it. This is why we are here today. And finally, let me read this one from Dennis Yakwete. It's saying the self-imposed naivety and myopia by some politicians and even some EC officials to come to terms with the reality that our current electoral regime is biometric in character, with its effects thereof is monumentally incredible. There cannot be a biometric register, and yet we go into an election which will produce an outcome of overvoting, and you want us to accept such an outcome in the interest of the pseudo-peace without justice? It won't happen. The NDC's relief should they go to court will be simple: independent auditing of the pink sheets and the BVR machines affected, and let us see which court would have the right figures out of such auditing. To the contrary, will still go ahead to uphold the declaration of the EC. Gabriela.
Sena, good morning. Good morning to my senior colleagues here and to the good people of Auto Sena West. And say a very special good morning to you. To the NDC fraternity as well, and to all Ghanaians. I want to commend the people of Ghana for coming out in their numbers, over 70% voter turnout in the past elections, to express themselves on who they wish to govern this country. Subsequent events have led us to a lot of what next scenarios in our body politics. As my friend Mujid was trying to ask, what is the end game? But before we can get to any end game, it's the current event that will determine what really will be the end game. As we sit here, our electoral commissioner has declared 3 different results on 3 different dates at 3 different events. From the first declaration, the second adjustment, to the third gazetted. How do we come to a finality on what exactly it is that was the true declaration and the true will of the people? The people are currently on the street, expressing their anger, their disappointment, and their frustrations. Something that the 1992 Constitution guarantees each and every Ghanaian within this democratic dispensation. The past 3 days, we've seen on our TV screens our fellow comrades being shot at, tear gassed, water cannonized, just because they choose to express the rights given to them by the Constitution. And you ask, what is the end game? Violence begets violence. If you do not put a stop to the high-handedness of the security apparatus and allow people to demonstrate peacefully, violence will beget violence, and the frustrations of the people will be exerted. Who will you blame when things get out of hand? We sat in this country prior to the elections. Our Peace Council and members of our Peace Council were led to the Electoral Commission as advisory council something. Today we have an issue at hand. And who are the people to mediate the current impasse? The people who were sent to the EC as advisors to the EC. The same EC which can give us a proper declaration. We sat here in this country, eminent persons from the Christian Council, all manner of associations and groupings, civil society organizations who all say they have a voice in our democratic dispensation, could not call the Electoral Commission to order. The NDC and other minority parties were raising concerns about the processes leading to these elections, and everybody was rather turning their guns on the NDC. And today the true verdict of the fears of the NDC has come out. Who is now supposed to hamper this current situation we find ourselves? Our able president is out of the country shopping. Whilst our people are on the streets being tear gassed for fighting for their fundamental human rights. Your human rights lawyer is shopping in London. Harrods and the rest, and people are dying to protect and preserve the democracy that our forebears have fought for us and brought to its current state and this current day. The LPP is busily up in arms on the NDC. Why are you not going to court? Why? Is it by force to go to court? You have stolen something from me. The Constitution has given me various means to seek redress. The court is just one option. Ask them, in 2012, when did they go to court? We had an election December 7th. They went to court December 27th. 20 days after the election. What were they doing? Were they not analyzing their pink sheets? Did they get up and pick their pink sheets like they are carrying newspapers and go to the Supreme Court and go and announce at the Supreme Court, we have come with pink sheets, the election was stolen? Did they not go through processes to finally get to December 27th to make their case before the Supreme Court? So why are they putting pressure on the NDC to go to court? If we go to court or we don't go to court, is it their concern? Are they the ones who pay the legal fees? After the 2012 election petition, the Supreme Court and the judiciary of Ghana sat down and compiled what legal instruments will be used to adjudicate any presidential petitions and all these issues that will come to their attention. There's a whole list of things to do before you come to the Supreme Court. You have to adduce evidence. You have to adduce a strong case why you think that it's even worth for the Supreme Court to listen to you in the first place. All these processes have to be undertaken by the NDC before we go to court. If currently, as we speak, the NDC is auditing the pink sheet, after auditing the pink sheet, whatever findings are adduced, yes, during the week, Sami Jemfi had a press conference and he came up with some of the examples of anomalies that are existent in the current auditing. There are many, many cases. We are auditing over 38,000 polling stations. And every infraction you see at a polling station, that you find that there's been, whether it was over, what do you call that thing, over padding or over voting, you have to identify all these things and make cogent arguments per each of the polling stations in order to build a case on how this affected the final presidential declaration. It is not a matter of just taking pen and paper and carrying pink sheets to the Supreme Court and telling them that the NDC has come, so please, we have a petition. We must go to the Supreme Court with a very formidable case. In 2012, it took 8 months to adjudicate a petition brought to them by Akufo-Addo. Thankfully, the Supreme Court has now decided that any petitioners who are coming have within, I think, 21 days or so to state whatever they want to bring to the court. They have 42 days to give a declaration. All these processes have been outlined and we must follow due process. Should the NDC decide to go to court, before we even go to court, and before we even take a decision on whether we are going to court or not to go to court, there are still other avenues open to us as a political party to express our discontentment with the result of the past elections. One of that is for us to come and sit on TV and radio and explain the position of the party and why we disagree with the declaration. The other one is for us to be on the streets. And this morning, some of our fellow comrades are on the streets. I hear in Keta there's a demonstration. Tomorrow in my constituency there's going to be a demonstration. Why should we sit down for the will of the people to be turned to suit the whims and caprices of another group of people because they want to be the ones in power. And then you come and tell us that as for the presidential, Mahama has no evidence, so we should just forget about that one. And let's focus on the parliamentary. Even the parliamentary seats, some of them were stolen. How did you give a declaration in Techiman South when there was no proper collation? So the returning officer, the presiding officer, when he was giving declaration on false evidence, false numbers, his own conscience did not prick him that what he was doing was not the will, exercising the will of the people in that constituency. To worsen matters, David went and brought election security task force to come and sack people from the collation hall just when they were about to come to the final numbers of who had won in that constituency, because it was not going in their favor. Unfortunately, innocent Ghanaians have lost their lives. One was a driver. The other was a student in Techiman South. People are injured and in hospital. Some are in critical condition. We should sit down as a political party for the clear will of the people to be turned upside down on its head. And then some group of people will decide that we rather want this person. There's another constituency, I think Zabzugu or one of these other constituencies, where the presiding officer and some group of men gathered and then they filled their own forms, signed their own pink sheet. Then the man stood there with his hand up. Then the guy read him like he's reading something from the Bible to honor him. And that is the declaration. No NDC representative. How is this fair? Was that the will of the people? No. That LPP gentleman who they say is that the parliamentary Diabe, he himself, that his own conscience sits well with him. And not the anointing. When they were doing that mysterious thing, then they even videoed themselves. That is like the height of stupidity for me. I'm very sorry this morning, but I don't know which other words I should use to reference that scenario. You recorded yourselves in that act. That is criminal. The declaration officer, the fake parliamentary gentleman standing there, and all those people who signed that pink sheet, all of them should be rounded up and sent to court. How offensive. And it sits well with everybody. The AC has declared that is a parliamentary candidate. We have given NPP 137 seats, one independent. NDC, take the 137. Now we are all equal. Everybody should go home. Goodbye. We are turning our democracy into a circus. We are turning our democracy into a joke. People have lost their lives. I saw videos of people who went on demonstrations when NDC clad NDC attire, and some of them had even their hands cut. And we think that the people who have taken to the streets to express anger at all these things are the ones who are causing harm to this country. Your electoral officer who declared a fraud, a PC, that is the enemy. Whoever ordered the security task force to go and sack people from the coalition center so there can be a false declaration, that is the enemy. Today, all our fellow comrades who have taken to the streets, many of them are now facing a trial for wrongful assembly because they choose to express their will. I was very surprised at the Ghana Police Service. That Thursday, I was at Ago TV for a program, so I saw when they were marching them there. And I saw when their armored vehicle there's one with a gun at Cathedral. I didn't understand why that guy kept shifting from. He faces this direction 15, 30 seconds. Then he shifts and faces this direction. Meanwhile, there are no demonstrators there. The only people passing there are vehicles caught up in traffic, already frustrated. And you are just shifting your ammunitions from one angle to the other. For what? And to the demonstrators, I have to say this. When you are going for demonstrations, please, if you go holding sticks and stones, the system will fight you back. You can still make your protest without carrying cudgels and sticks and stones. Ghana police, I'm surprised they haven't beaten our demonstrators. From what I hear, prior to the elections, even they cried their cases like Odadadami. Nana Akufo-Addo, I hear, promised them some hefty money. And then this month, the money was withdrawn. If anybody should join us on the street, it is they and the UTAC people. Because since Nana Akufo-Addo won the election, his true colors have shown again. But Odadadami hefty promises. Today we'll do this, tomorrow we'll do that. End of the day, as for him, he has left us. He's gone shopping. And we are here, having to deal with our wounded comrades. People on the street fighting for the cause of justice and for rights. You want peace. How do you find peace when you don't allow fairness? How will you find peace when you don't allow for justice? Peace is not something that you go and stand there. We are not Jesus Christ to come and say, let there be peace, and there is peace. We are in the world. And in the world, we have to seek justice so that we can find true peace. I want to entreat Ghanaians, do not fall for the propaganda of the NPP that we are not going to court because we have no evidence. There is no pressure on the NDC to go to court immediately. The NDC is auditing pink sheets. We'll come out with our legal arguments, and when we are ready, NEC will take a decision on whether to go to court or not to go to court with the flag bearer, and then we'll all see our levels in this country. But for now, I think that you shouldn't hold it against the NDC if we take to the streets to express our protest, so long as we are doing so in peace and not harming anybody. In 2012, we've seen visuals of, I think it was Mutala who just mentioned, about what happened in front of the then candidate Akufo-Addo's house, where an innocent bystander, taking his kids, driving his kids, had his cars destroyed. We saw when their own now appointees, speaker after speaker after speaker, was calling on their people to misbehave and to do all kinds of things in the name of their winning an election. Have you seen anybody in the NDC telling the NDC foot soldiers to go and destroy anything? Nobody has done that. But it happened right in front of President Akufo-Addo's house. And yet, nobody shot at them. Nobody poured hot water on them. Nobody threw tear gas at them. Nobody shot them with rubber bullets. But the ones who went to stand at EC, holding placards with their petition, asking Jean Mensa to resign, they were rather tear gassed, water cannonized. They were shot at with rubber bullets, and then they were arrested. What kind of country is this? But the ones who have caused the commotion, as for them, they should sleep well at night. The ones on the street fighting for truth and justice. On the crest of this country are two eagles, and at the bottom of that crest is written freedom and justice. When you want freedom, you must fight for justice. It is guaranteed, even in our crest. So nobody should stop NDC foot soldiers from demonstrating. It is their right. It is guaranteed by the Constitution. And if when they are angry and you try to suppress it, and that anger starts to build up, as for that our president who is out there shopping, they will drag him back to this country, and they will throw him out of that Jubilee House, because they will not throw him out in his absence. They will bring him and throw him out. Whoever sent him to go shopping, they should tell him to come back to Ghana.
Thank you, Gabriela. Ibrahim Al-Hassan is saying, tell the MPP man that the NDC has every reason to doubt the Supreme Court because It is a court that told us that the birth certificate is not a necessary document to prove national identity. That's to make sure the EC compiled a new voters register. Ibrahim Inyendi says, Sena, good morning to you and your panel, especially my mentor, Chris Pratt. Tell him is one of the reasons why Ghana is still enjoying the prevailing peace. As for Jin Mensa and MPP, God will judge them in this world and hereafter. You say, Res Bimpe is saying, please, the leadership of the NDC are not case. I think they want to gather all their evidence and legal advice so that they can be sure of a concrete case before proceeding to court. Allow them. Zola Ben says, I wonder why Peace Council cannot tell the EC chairperson to come out and correct the errors she made about the results she declared, but rather telling JM to go to court. This is not good judgment. Henry Collins says, please, Mujib is asking the NDC to go to court. Please ask him if the EC chairperson went to court before she altered the election results she declared on December 7, more than 4 times. Salam Kasalgo says, even the European Union observers clearly stated that the so-called big media house were all biased. At this point, I feel the NDC must stop being an orphan lamb in the midst of wolves. See the abundance of evidence. Yet these media houses are issuing threats to NDC that they will not cover our events. It's with a heavy heart that we've got to lament this way publicly about an entity we've accorded so much respect and freedom compared with our political counterparts. If you push a person to the wall and they have nowhere to be pushed to, then it becomes a war of shoving elbows. No one will disrespect us or treat us like orphans and get out with it henceforth. Let me just read one from Ambassador Sam Piale, and then I'll go to Mr. Pratt. So those who are calling on the NDC to go to court as if the NDC is afraid of a cause are daydreamers. In 2012, the MPP assembled 36 lawyers at the Supreme Court, but the 4-member NDC legal team led by Tachikata demolished them all. We are not afraid of the cause at all, even if the court has the devil as judges. A man who goes to war unprepared is a fool. NDC will go to court with efficiency and effectiveness in due course. Mr. Pratt.
Well, I think first, it is important to recognize that this election has been like no other before in our history. This election has been an extraordinary election. And as the days pass on, we see more extraordinary things happen. We cannot forget that the history of this election began with some attempt at changing the composition of the Electoral Commission. We cannot forget that one of the petitioners asking for a change or the removal of some commissioners was actually non-existent. The person had died. And yet, we went through the processes and effected these changes, these very controversial changes, in the composition of the membership of the Electoral Commission. It did not end there. The MPP had always believed that the voters' register was bloated, and that if the voters' register was changed, they could win elections. And the voters' register was changed. We have a new voters' register, completely new voters' register. Look at the developments which have occurred in the Volta region, the stronghold of the National Democratic Congress. Look at what has happened. Look at the number of soldiers who have been posted there. That is not the end of the story. In the run-up to the elections, look at what happened. The increase in emoluments for security services and so on. Look at what happened in several places and so on. And yet, after all this, changing the register, changing members of the commission, doing all kinds of things, at the end of all of that, both candidates got 6 million plus votes. So if all of this did not happen, what would have been the result? the NPP did everything that it believed would assure it victory. And this is the result that could be declared by the Electoral Commission. Very interesting. Exceedingly interesting. Now, today, there are two contestants, two people, two institutions, two organizations in a contest. And one of them is so busily telling the opponent how to win the competition. Does it make sense to you? There's a football match between Asante Kotoko and Accra House of Folk. And all the Accra House of Folk people are doing from morning till night is teaching Asante Kotoko how to win the game. Something must be fundamentally wrong. Why? House of Folk doesn't want to win the game again. A contest between NDC and NPP. And NPP, morning till night, every day, is teaching the NDC how to win the game. Don't do this, do that. No, if you do this, it will be a mistake and so on. NPP doesn't want to lose the elections. They've now become coaches for the NDC. Incredible. I would have thought that the NPP would be focusing attention on how it can win the elections. But it's not interested in that. NPP now wants NDC to win the election, so they are teaching them. Oh, get your pink sheets, do this. If you do this, it's good for you and so on. Why are they not talking about what is good for themselves? Incredible. But you see, there's a dimension to this election that nobody is discussing. The ramifications of these elections within the new patriotic party. Nobody is talking about that. Those who led the new patriotic party to this disgrace, when are they going to account to the members and founders of the new patriotic party? The new patriotic party elected leaders at a time when it had won an election massively. They themselves say, oh, close to 1 million votes and so on. With close to 1 million votes, the difference in seats was 39. The goodwill was huge. How come that within 4 years, those who were elected to lead the new patriotic party have squandered all the goodwill the party had? They have completely squandered all the goodwill, to the extent that now the whole party machinery is doing permutations. Oh, we can get 140. No. We can get 137. No. Oh, if we add the independent candidate, we can get so much. The members of the new patriotic party must be asking their leaders questions. That is not for me to do. It is not for the CPP to do. It's not for the PPP to do. It's not for the NDC to do. Members of the new patriotic party have a duty to question their leaders about how they squandered the public goodwill, about how they created this mess, about how they created the situation in which today, couple of days after elections, they have become coaches to the NDC. The members of the new patriotic party must ask their leaders. Their leaders have embarrassed them. They have disgraced them. They have shown that they are not worthy of leadership of that party. I am sure that in the next couple of days, we shall hear voices from the new patriotic party raising these issues about how the leadership of the party displayed this level of crass incompetence and squandered the public goodwill that the party had enjoyed over a period of time. And this would be the ramifications of this election within the new patriotic party. All these communicators, Mujib and others, Mujib, how he's performing here today and so on, what he's saying and so on. Mujib, ask yourself how you got here. Are you happy that from the position of the New Patriotic Party in 2016, in 2020, the New Patriotic Party is here? Shouldn't you be concerned? If you leave the party in the hands of this leadership, in 2024, it will be worse. And I'm saying this, assuming that what has been declared so far is even the true results. It's an embarrassment. Mujib, if I were you, I'd be so embarrassed I would not be able to talk. And yet, you are still there doing chest beating and so on. Listen, I've been hearing all kinds of strange voices. All kinds of very strange voices. There are the people who come up and say, oh, in politics, there should always be compromise, but NDC compromise. If in politics there are always compromises and so on, why are we not urging all the sides to make compromises? Why is it only one party which must be making compromises? In a situation where you have two contestants and only one is making compromises, it ceases to be compromise by surrender. It becomes surrender. So if compromises have to be made, MPP has to make some compromise, NDC has to make some compromise, everybody has to make some compromise. What is the compromise that the NPP is making? They say that in politics everybody has to make compromises. What compromise is MPP making today? The worst part has to do with all these self-righteous people and organizations and so on, insisting that, oh, the NDC must go to court. I want somebody to tell me today, which Ghanaian law, which Ghanaian provision says that anybody has an obligation to go to court? Which Ghanaian law says that? What in the 1992 Constitution says that if you are cheated in an election, by all means, by hook or crook, go to court? What in the Constitution says that? Which Ghanaian law says that if you are cheated in an election, you have to go to court? There is nothing like that. Nobody is under any compulsion to go to court. And I'm even surprised that some people in the NDC have already started caving in, and they are caving into the pressure. So whenever it is, oh, don't worry, when we get our things right, we'll go to court. When we finish auditing, who told you that you have to go to court? In any case, I think that it is important to look at the credentials of those who are saying that some people must go to court. Look at their credentials. Don't forget that last week, days after our election, the president of this republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, went to join his counterpart. He went to join his counterpart, President Alassane Ouattara of la Côte d'Ivoire, to celebrate Alassane Ouattara's victory. Don't forget that. This is a very, very important statement. Look, when Alassane Ouattara was declared loser of the Ivorian elections by the Ivorian Electoral Commission, he was declared loser. He was not declared winner. Alassane Ouattara was declared loser. What did he do? Did he go to Supreme Court? Did he go to any court? He did not go to any court. Alassane Ouattara did not go to any court to resolve the crisis arising out of the Ivorian elections. And who was in his corner? The New Patriotic Party of Ghana, led by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, supported Alassane Ouattara throughout. How was the Ivorian crisis resolved? And yet they supported it. If it is good for la Côte d'Ivoire, why can't it be good for Ghana? And if it is good for Ghana, Somebody must be telling me why it is not good for La Côte d'Ivoire. Alassane Ouattara refused the demand for a recount of ballots. Simple demand for recount of ballots. He said, no, we would not recount. We would not recount. He insisted that he was leader. He had been elected president and so on, because somebody from his political party had gone into a hotel room, held a press conference to announce that Alassane Ouattara was the winner of that election. Not the Electoral Commission. Not the Presidential Council, which under Ivorian Constitution has the final say in every election. And yet, Nana Akufo-Addo and the New Patriotic Party supported Ouattara. La Côte d'Ivoire has gone to a second election. All the major opposition parties boycotted the elections because of what is clearly a manipulation of the constitution. Many people in La Côte d'Ivoire, including all the major political parties, rejected the results of that election. There were shootings in the streets of La Côte d'Ivoire. There were raids on university campuses, leading to many deaths and so on. Our president did not see any of these things. He went to La Côte d'Ivoire to join his brother and comrades in arms, Alassane Ouattara, to celebrate his victory. But then he comes to Ghana and says, anybody who has a problem, go to the Supreme Court. Look at all the conflicts around West Africa. How many of them were eventually resolved in the Supreme Court? Burkina Faso, was it resolved in the Supreme Court? And yet, our president, as president of ECOWAS, is happy with the situation in Burkina Faso. Very comfortable with the situation in Burkina Faso. Why? Do Ghanaians have horns? Do we have horns? Are we different from the people of Burkina Faso? What is good for Burkina Faso can be good for Ghana. And what is good for Ghana can be good for Burkina Faso. Double standards are things that we have to frown upon. At the least, frown upon double standards. Our leaders should not be speaking from both sides of their mouth. When our leaders speak, we should see principle. We should see the expression of principle. You understand? Clear? And I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing double standards all over the place. If the NDC decides to go to court, that is their business. If the NDC decides to go to court, that is their business. They can go to court. But the NDC cannot prevent any Ghanaian, whether they are members of the NDC or not, from insisting on their fundamental rights, fundamental human rights of free expression, of the freedom to associate and the freedom to protest. NDC cannot say that. Tomorrow morning, if a group of Ghanaians insist on their votes being counted, it does not matter whether they are NDC or NPP. President or former President John Dramani Mahama has no locus, no authority to stop people from insisting that their votes should count. He can talk about his own personal vote, the one he cast. But he can't stop me from insisting that my vote should count. On what authority? So why do people think that if President Mahama and the NDC decided to go to court and the court made a decision, that would be the end of the matter? It would not be the end of the matter. Because President Mahama does not speak for me. The NDC does not speak for me. The NDC does not speak for the 30 million people of Ghana. So if the NDC is minded to make mistakes, if the NDC is minded to miscalculate things and so on, that is their business. The people of Ghana have legitimacy and they have legal rights to insist that their votes are counted. And nothing is going to change that. I think the other issue of principle, you know, is simply this. There's the principle of the equality before the law. And that's a very important principle in any democracy. There cannot be a democracy if the principle of the equality of citizens is thrown overboard. That is the basis of building any democratic society. The equality of citizens before the law, and even outside the purview of the law. Citizens are equal and must be treated equally, and so on. You know, in this country, I have seen protests over election results. I saw protests over election results in 2012. In those elections, cars were burnt, properties were vandalized, people were injured, all kinds of things happened. People made public statements promoting violence and so on. Not one person was arrested and prosecuted. Not one person was arrested and prosecuted. And today, all the video clips are there. And in fact, some people have started showing those video clips of taxis being overturned and set ablaze, of children being traumatized and so on, of innocent people being beaten, the aggression on the streets and so on. It is all available. Not one person was arrested and prosecuted. Today, in 2020, people simply raise placards. They don't burn any vehicles. They don't beat anybody. They don't use cutlasses to slash human bodies and so on. And yet, as we speak, 20-something people have been arrested and they're going to be prosecuted. How come? How come that some people are treated differently from others? In this country, it appears that if you belong to one political party, you can do anything you like and get away with it. But if you belong to some other political party, woe betides you. Even when you smile, there's a problem. Can you imagine? You have forgotten the case of the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party who went to an IPAC meeting and he was accused of laughing. Of NDC. If you belong to some political party, you can't even laugh. You can't cough. What kind of society are we building? What kind of society are we building? In any case, talking about the election results, to be honest, I am quite scandalized already. I'm completely scandalized. As for the arithmetic errors, everybody has spoken about it. It's become a joke in town. You understand? Complete joke in town. So I'm not going to dwell on the arithmetic errors and so on. I'm also not going to dwell on what the NDC is saying or what the PPP is saying or what the NPP is saying. Let us look at the reports that the observer missions have put out. All the observer missions, with the exception of Kodio, have said that the computation of the election figures, the results, was not transparent. They have said in clear language that it was opaque. Which Democrat in the world will accept results of an election which were compiled in a non-transparent manner? Tell me one. Which Democrat? Forget the figures, forget the arithmetic errors and so on. We are told that even if the figures add up, those figures were compiled in a non-transparent manner. What does that mean? Is that not the same that the figures could have been cooked? Is that not the same? Like the figures could have been cooked? So which Democrat in the world will participate in an election or be affected by an election result and accept the election results knowing that the figures were arrived at in non-transparent processes? Which one? Which one? The election observers, the foreign election observers, also all came to the conclusion that there was abuse of state power. There was abuse of incumbency. It's in their report. I'm not the one saying it. You understand? All of them also came to the conclusion that the media was biased. I am a journalist. At least I want to think of myself as a journalist. Okay? I'm a journalist. And I don't want a situation where political parties are telling us how to do our work. We should not allow political parties to tell us how to do our work. We as journalists should do our work independently. Even if we make mistakes, it will be our mistakes and so on. Unfortunately, all the things that are being revealed simply show that we didn't do our work. All the things that are being revealed simply shows that all we did was to take figures from the Electoral Commission and to broadcast them and publish them as our own. Is that what we are supposed to do? Is that what we are supposed to do? And many of the media houses prepared adequately for this election. In fact, one radio station that I know had 400 people in the field. 400 people in the field. That's a huge number. The cost alone is mind-boggling and so on. What we would all have expected is that at the time when the results were being collated, when they were being announced in the polling stations and eventually being collated in the constituency election collation centers, they would have been there. So as the Electoral Commission announces its figures, they'll be cross-checking with the figures that they themselves got. If it was simply a case of just becoming rediffusion boxes for the Electoral Commission, then what was the point of getting 400 people? What was the point of putting 400 people in the field when we could have stayed in our offices in Accra and by telephone link be listening to the Electoral Commission telling us that these are the figures, and then we just put the figures out? Something was wrong with our coverage of this election. And I think that we should be bold enough to admit it. And we should all find ways which would enable us to be of better service to Ghana than what we are doing. I've heard some of my colleagues say, oh, then we are going to boycott the NDC and so on. Okay, fine, let's boycott the NDC. It's our right to boycott the NDC. Nobody can tell us what to publish. So we can decide to black out the NDC. But what would we be confirming? In the final analysis, we'll be confirming that we are biased against one political party. And it does our image no good. It does our practice no good. You understand? In any case, why do you think that people listen to us? Why do you think that people listen or watch us on television and so on? Because they want true information. Because they want to know what the major players in this country are thinking, so that they can make up their own minds. If you black out one, you would no longer be able to serve your audience. Of course, those you black out may not be able to reach out to the population, but we also suffer. You understand? So let us find ways of serving this country better than we are doing, today. Now, some of my colleagues on this panel have spoken about the Electoral Commission and the errors it has made and the fact that it has published several reports and several results and so on. At the last count, the Electoral Commission had made 6 changes to the results it published on Wednesday, the 9th of December. 6 changes. And some of the changes are simply mind-boggling. In one instance, the Electoral Commission came to us and told us that, oh, they actually forgot to add the results of a whole constituency to the one they announced. This forgetfulness is very strange. You understand? The Electoral Commission of Ghana conducted elections in 275 constituencies and forgot to add one result. The Electoral Commission also came to us and said, oh, there was only one constituency where there was a dispute, about the results. And that by their calculations, if they added all those results to what President John Dramani Mahama had won, it would make no changes. And therefore, they were going ahead to declare the results. It turned out that they had forgotten one more constituency. That makes 2. So the simple question is, if they added the results of those 2 constituencies, all of it, to President Mahama's results, what would the situation have been? Then it turned out that there were not only 2 constituencies in dispute, but 4 or more. In fact, in the case of Sena East, West, whatever, it turned out that one ballot box had not been counted and therefore the result had not been declared, and so on. So, in plain, ordinary language, not in the sophisticated language that sometimes Jim Mensah and others use that we poor people cannot understand, but in plain, ordinary language, the EC lied to us. And the lie they told was significant enough, very significant enough to make nonsense of their declaration. Now there's something else. And my brother Mujib kept repeating that today, and it's interesting. That, oh, no political party can order the EC to do what it wants. True. No political party can do that. But every participant in this election, including non-political parties, voters, and so on, we all have a right to petition the Electoral Commission. And when we petition the Electoral Commission is enjoined to look at our petition. When a petition is sent to the Electoral Commission, as a public institution, it has a duty to look at that petition. What happened? Before it started announcing the electoral results and so on, there was a petition from former President John Dramani Mahama. Did the commission look at the petition? Did the commission read over the petition? The chairperson of the commission just threw the petition away. That alone is sufficient to invalidate the results of the elections or to put the declaration on hold. Because the Electoral Commission has a duty to examine the petition. Did it examine the petition? It did not. That's the crux of the matter. If you send a petition to an institution, you are not ordering the institution to do what you want. You are saying that you have noticed some things which are illegal, some things which have no legitimacy, some things which would affect the overall performance of duty of that institution and so on, and therefore it should look at it. It should simply just look at it. In this case, our Electoral Commission displayed horrible and absolute impunity and just threw the petition away and so on. Now there's something else which is happening which is when I sit back I just laugh. You know, there's a deliberate attempt to turn the security services against the leader, the presidential candidate of the National Democratic Congress and the party itself. So you hear people saying that, oh, The NDC is condemning the security services and so on. Is that true? It is not. All I've heard the NDC people saying, and I've said that many times over and over again, is that the legitimate security forces should not allow their structures to be infiltrated by hoodlums, by tonton makuts, by vigilantes and so on, and that they should protect the integrity of the institution. If somebody says you should protect the integrity of your institution, is that against you? Is that a condemnation? It is not. First of all, the person recognizes that your institution has integrity. Because if your institution has no integrity, what are you being called upon to protect? Protect the integrity of your institution. Is that one to a crime? You know, all of us are stopped from making comments, prejudicial comments about cases before the courts. But as a journalist, I know that when evidence is presented to court, you can reveal it. You remember the shooting at Ablekuma, leading to one death. Are you aware of the defense being put up by the person who allegedly did the shooting? His defense is that he's a national security operative attached to the Jubilee House. Well, I like to call it the Flagstaff House. But that's his defense. That is his defense in court. That is a national security operative. Is he a proper, regular national security operative? That's a matter the court will decide. I am in no position to make a decision as to whether he's a proper national security operative. But he claims that he went to the place with a loaded weapon and that he was acting for the national security establishment. That's interesting. We are all waiting to see what the court will decide. But this is his defense in court. That's a national security operative. Not an ordinary national security operative, but a national security operative attached to the Jubilee House. Before the elections, what did the IGP tell us? The IGP told us in plain language that security at the polling stations and for the elections will be conducted only by policemen, proper police people, in a specially designed uniform. They will wear name tags and so on. You understand? And that soldiers will be on standby and will be deployed only when necessary. It's important to examine all of these things. Now, there's something else that I've seen on social media, and I've tried to do some checks. I haven't finished my checks, but it is very interesting. Have you heard that somebody from Defense Intelligence was arrested in the office of former President John Dramani Mahama with a concealed loaded weapon? Somebody must be explaining this. How come that a soldier from Defense Intelligence went to John Mahama's office with a concealed loaded weapon? What was it intended to do? Somebody must be explaining this to us. Now the matter is out, so we can't keep quiet over it. Who is this Defense Intelligence operative who went to former President John Dramani Mahama's office with a concealed loaded weapon? He was, the security of President John Mahama detected it, they arrested him, and they seized the weapon. Where is the weapon? What has happened to that case? We want to know. We want to know. And it is important that we know the identity of the person. Was he acting in official capacity? How did he manage to enter the office Where is the gun? Where is the gun which was concealed on his body? Is the police investigating this matter? And how far have the investigations gone? We want to know. And it is not because it is John Dramani Mahama. When any and every citizen is threatened or is made to feel threatened, we have to ask questions, especially in this dispensation. You understand? Now, you know my worry. All of the people who are asking us to sweep things under the carpet and so on, you know effectively what they are telling us to do? They are telling us that we should act in ways which will legitimize fraud in elections. It doesn't matter if the election results are fraudulently obtained. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if people get shot during elections. It doesn't matter if all the things that are happening happen. It doesn't matter if at the end of the day, the Electoral Commission comes up with results, and when you add up the percentages, it exceeds 100%. It doesn't matter. For the sake of peace, leave it like that. Don't complain. It doesn't matter if there are cases of overvoting in polling stations. When in some instances, the number of people who voted in polling stations is more than 300% of registered voters. It doesn't matter. We want peace. We want peace, so don't complain. Keep quiet. Shut your mouth. Don't complain. If we accept this situation, and accept the advice of these people, those people, do you know what we're going to end up with? It will become the norm. Ghana will become a true banana republic. That is what we will become. If you accept the results of these so-called peacemongers who have no interest in the promotion of justice, who don't want the truth to be established, we will be developing a complete banana republic. And I don't want my country to become a banana republic. I want to live in a Ghana which at least resembles the Ghana that Kwame Nkrumah dreamt about. I want to live in a Ghana in which many of my comrades and friends lost their lives struggling for the restoration of multi-party democracy. I want to live in the Ghana that myself, the late Victor Newman, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, Dr. Weku Brobe, Ajib Branson, and President Nana Akufo-Addo thought we could build. That is not the Ghana I'm seeing today. The Ghana I'm seeing today is not the Ghana for which we organized the Kumipreku demonstration, leading to the death of 5 people. 5 people lost their lives, including a student, Ahonu Wonga. This is not the kind of Ghana for which Ahonu Wonga lost his life. I want to live in the Ghana, in the Ghana that great men and women like Dede Ashikrisha, like Jenkrejewu and others dreamt about. That's the Ghana in which I want to live. I don't want to live in a Ghana in which our leaders, community leaders, traditional leaders and so on, say because we want peace, we should sacrifice justice. I don't want to live in that kind of Ghana. I don't want to live in that kind of Ghana where election results are clearly impossible and we are told to close our eyes, close our mouth, turn the other way and let things be so that there can be peace. So that we can experience the peace of the graveyard. Not the peace that springs out of justice, but the peace of the graveyard. I don't want that kind of peace. The peace I want is that kind of peace which springs out of a quest for justice. That kind of peace which frowns on tribalism. That kind of peace which makes sure that the resources of my country are equitably distributed. That kind of peace which ensures that our gold, our diamonds, our timber, our bauxite and so on will be owned by our people, exploited for the benefit of our people. That kind of peace which would make sure that this wealth will translate into the well-being of all the people of Ghana. That's the kind of peace that I want. You know, our politicians must be learning very important lessons from this election. Before the elections, you heard all the sermons. We were told that so many thousand people have gone through free senior high school, and that those of them who have attained the age of 18 and all their parents and grandparents and uncles and aunties and cousins and so on would vote for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo because he has done something which even Tuzan Oliver did not do. That's what we were told before the elections. Check the election results. Did that happen? It didn't. And if it didn't, somebody must begin to think again. They must begin to realize that the Ghanaian people are not the people they thought they were. That we are a different breed of people. And that the introduction of free senior high school does not resolve all problems. They must begin to understand that very clearly. You know, before the elections, I went to the Oti region. I went to Nkwanta. And when I came back, I think it was on this very program, this very platform, that I said, look, the politicians are missing something. Because we were told that because new regions have been created, all those in the new regions were going to vote a particular way. I went to Nkwanta. I didn't have discussions with all the big people and so on. I went to the taxi rank. And I asked the people at the taxi rank how they were going to vote. And they told me how they were going to vote. And I said to them, but you must be very ungrateful. A new region has just been created for you. You must vote for the people who created the region for you. Do you know the answer they gave me? One taxi driver looked into my face and said, yes, they've created a new region, but they have not created new voters. He said, they've created a new region, but they have not created new voters. It is the same old voters who voted a particular way who are going to vote this time round. The election results prove that the taxi driver was right, and all our professors and Skominini, political scientists and so on, who thought that the creation of new regions would change the situation were wrong. Sometimes we should listen to the taxi driver. Sometimes we should listen to the cocoa seller by the street. On many occasions, they have proven to be more sagacious than we are. On many occasions, they are proven to be on top of the issue when we are not on top of the issue. That also collapsed. Alright? There are many assumptions which have collapsed in this election. And it will be important for those who make those assumptions, the big men and women who sit in Accra, to think again, to begin to reassess our society. It is in their best interest. Because the way things are moving, and I can see it, the way things are moving, if cool heads do not prevail, if all of us, irrespective of our political party affiliation, if all of us do not come together to think properly, think through the issues, and act in the best interest of this country, chaos lies ahead of us. Complete chaos lies ahead of us. And that is why it is important for us to stop and think. That is why it is important for us to act together. But you see, that is impossible today. You know why? Listen to the language that is being used. 2 days ago, I tuned into Pan-African television. I was sitting at home, and I tuned into Pan-African television. and I saw a leader of the New Patriotic Party refer to former President John Dramani Mahama as a crybaby. Crybaby. How do you talk to crybabies? In this situation, if you really believe that former President John Dramani Mahama is a crybaby, how are you going to talk to him? So this extreme foolishness, bravado, impunity, arrogance must come to an end. Let us all think about Ghana and its future and stop the needless insults. Calling former President John Dramani Mahama a crybaby doesn't solve any problem. It worsens the existing problem on the ground. Why can't you show respect to him? He's a former president. Why can't we show respect to Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo even if he has lost the elections? The fact that he has lost the elections or may have lost the election doesn't devalue him as a human being. So let's talk to ourselves in a civil manner. Let's discuss the issues in a manner which enables us to reach a compromise, because some people say that we should reach a compromise. If we have to listen to these chiefs, including the president of the National House of Chiefs, and if we have to make compromises, how are we going to make compromise when we are calling ourselves crybabies and so on? How is that going to be possible? But you know, Sena, some things surprise me. Some things really surprise me. The chiefs are still talking. The chiefs, they're still talking. Doesn't it surprise you? Because on the campaign trail, I had chiefs who came and said, me and my people and all, we are all voting in a certain direction. The results have come. Did the people vote in that direction? For all you know, even the chiefs did not vote the way they said they were going to vote. They needed the Land Cruiser, so they said it and they grabbed the Land Cruiser. How they voted, how do you know? And they are still talking. My brother, they are still talking, those chiefs. They are not even ashamed. All the pledges they made collapsed on their heads, and they are still talking. But you know, in all of this, there's one chief who has spoken my words. There's one chief who has spoken my words. I'm sure that everybody knows the chief I'm talking about. I'm not going to mention his name. I've seen that chief, and I've heard that chief, and I've heard him say, in clear Asante language, that nobody can intimidate the people of Ghana with guns. That's a good advice to the politicians. Anybody who thinks that the people of Ghana can be intimidated with guns is daydreaming. We were not intimidated when ex-servicemen, including Sergeant Ajete and Corporal Tipo, were gunned down in front of the Christianborg Castle. We were not intimidated. We moved on from victory to victory. In fact, the gunning down of the ex-servicemen became a spark which lit the flame of liberation and swept across Ghana and the whole of Africa. Let nobody think that gunning down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people will change anything in this country. And that chief spoke my words and spoke my mind. 1995, May 11, 5 people were gunned down. Did it stop the movement? It didn't stop the movement. So guns cannot intimidate the people of Ghana. Water cannons cannot prevent the people of Ghana from achieving justice for themselves. Rubber bullets have never been able to stop a determined and courageous people seeking freedom, and it would not happen in Ghana. A word to the politician must be enough. One word to the politician must be enough. They better listen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. Okay, so let me just read this message from Komala Ganya. I sent in a bit earlier. We are 42 minutes past 11. Somebody's accusing me of corruption because of Okay. So currently we are showing some videos of some of the demonstration that has been going on across the country. I think this is Ketu South, right? This is Aplau. Okay. So that's the those are videos of the demonstration that happened in Aplau. But Komala Ganya is saying the EC and MPP engage in this massive stealing of votes because they don't fear the Christian and Islam God. If the thieves and their collaborators have gotten instant punishment from the gods of the land, the issue would have been settled by now. I have credible information that West NDC-PC was denied victory when the incumbent brought military men to the coalition center to chase away everyone, including NDC-PC, and manipulated the results in its favor. I want the NDC to follow up with that case also. Thank you. Mike Aflu says this year's election petition is a good opportunity for the Supreme Court to redeem their sunk image. Over to you, Chief Justice. Albert Ayi Patterson is saying, Sena, Nombo, another form of, he is the one who says another form of corruption is when ALHAJI and ALHAJI starts at 30 minutes late and here finishes at the stipulated closing time. Please take note and do the needful. Okay, Sophia goes in. One purpose is the EC unwilling to organize votes for the people of Lulubi and Akpafo. These people were within the Hohoi municipality but have been carved out and added to OT in spite of their objections. Let their votes count. If the EC still refuses to conduct elections for those brethren, then there should be no parliament in 2021 and a speaker cannot be elected. And with the do Jesus Ghanaians power, you made someone further jump up and down on a platform like a constipated frog singing. Let's move on to the issue with Parliament. And of course, I can only afford 5 minutes each. When I start once again, MP led for Tamale Center.
Well, I think that it will be an interesting spectre. The challenge, first and foremost, would have to do with the election of the speaker. There's no doubt in my mind that the NDC will be the majority in Parliament, because per what the Electoral Commission desperately does is that we all have 137 constituencies each. My understanding is that the independent, MP will be aligning himself with the NPP. But the Constitution says that parties must elect. If you take the standing orders, parties must elect the speaker and compose committees. The independent is not a party. It's an independent of Parliament. So my understanding is that they are desperately trying to amend some of the standing orders in Parliament, haven't realized that things are going to be a very huge challenge for them. So clearly, if the issues are able to be resolved, that is regards to the Techiman South and Shepiasu. The problem with Shepiasu is that the MPP guy was leading by 50 votes. There was a polling station which President Mahama won with a very huge margin, presidential. The MPP guys destroyed the parliamentary ballot box, bent it. Yes, yet the Electoral Commission went ahead to declare. And in fact, in one of the polling stations, the NDC agents and the presiding officer were all beaten and chased away. Yet the MPP agent came with a pink sheet. So one wonder where he got a pink sheet, because the pink sheet is solely driven from the presiding officer at the polling station. In fact, he is the owner of the pink sheet, and he has to enter the results of the various political parties as happened in the polls, and then signed, and then the other agents of various political parties will sign. There's no doubt in my mind that the NDC will take those seats. And you see, the MPP's argument is always that we should go to court, even in the matter of a simple computation and analysis of pink sheets. We can resolve it without necessarily going to court, as we did in Sabulugu. 5 polling stations, they were not coalition. Zabzugu, there wasn't any coalition. Techiman South, there wasn't any coalition. Sefuesu, right? There wasn't any coalition. Sena West, there wasn't any coalition until some of these things are done. Yet the Electoral Commission went ahead to declare. I mean, the interesting of all is, even when the NDC raised concerns about some of these issues, the Electoral Commission itself, in a written statement, asked the NDC to go to court. What would be the purpose for the NDC going to court when the resolution lies within the Electoral Commission itself. If you're able to do that in Savulgo, why can't you do that in the other constituencies? Now, assuming without admitting that it stands the way it is, it will be extremely difficult. Because one, the compositions of committees are proportionally selected. Proportionally selected. There are almost all the committees are chaired by the party that has the majority in parliament, except public accounts, which is supposed to be given to the opposition party. If we all have the same number of seats, which party is going to chair those committees? Who is going to be a ranking member? The interesting thing about it is that the committees cannot be bulldozed as it was the case under President Nana Addo from 2006 into 2020. 2017 to 2020, where they sentenced to committees, even in the eyes of justifiable objections by the minority members of the committees, they go ahead and do what they want to do. This time around, it's not going to be so. The Constitution also enjoins His Excellency the President to appoint more than 50%, or 50% at least, of his ministers from Parliament. I have been a deputy minister before. There can never be a time without ministers being out of the country. If a government that seeks to do that, then that government will cease to function. How are they going to do some of these things? So what the MPP is desperately looking forward to, they are desperately doing that one, to have the authority to choose the speaker. But if it stands that way, and then the guy, the Femina MP, decides to align with them, they may say that yes, they can choose. But I think that whatever the case is, Mr. Nana Addo never won the elections. And I have no doubt in mind he won't be our president, because he never won the elections. No matter how the resolution is going to be done, President Muhammad genuinely and legitimately won the elections. The NDC has majority in parliament. And I've heard a lot of the guys in the media who says that, yes, the NDC has 137, MPP has 137. For the sake of peace and unity of this country, we should allow that to go. Interestingly, this same statement or narrative is being given by people who ought to know. You have religious, so-called moral society. You have traditional authorities who are all demanding. And sometimes I wonder whether that is the kind of character and attitude they would want us to learn from them. In a typical African home, and for that matter, a typical Ghanaian home, honesty and sincerity, they take precedence of everything. Even in resolving disputes, they must know who is right and who is wrong. And the one who is wrong is pleaded with to temper, what's the name? Justice with mercy. In this case, that is not what they are doing. They are not saying that, yes, someone is right, someone is wrong. They are simply saying that, yes, you may be right. We are not even going to establish whether you are right or you are wrong. This is a decision we have taken because in a so-called wanton peace and stability and governance of this country, as if that is not even catastrophic. If President Mahama were to just allow the statu quo to continue, he would have been a danger to our democracy. Because part of the processes of protecting the democratic principles of any state is to ensure that they don't foist a fraud elections on the people. Because if you were to allow that to go on, then you would have been doing something more dangerous to the democratic process and going forward than even helping it. The last point I would just want to make is that I know that this government have met some chiefs. And I know that there's a very respectful chief in northern Ghana they have met, pleading with that chief to talk to President Mahama. A simple message is that President Mahama is not going to listen to anything except the right things that ought to be done. And I agree absolutely with Uncle Kwesi when he said that it is not just about President Mahama. It is about protecting the democracy of this country. And one thing I can assure everybody, that, and my brother, if he so feels uncomfortable with it, the NDC is simply exercising their democratic right. Many people out there are exercising their democratic right. And the democratic right we are expressing here is that let our vote count. There's no any compromises whatsoever on that issue.
Okay, thank you. Would you?
All day. Chama, I lie. Don't be so. No, but the reality of the matter is that Mutala, but we must move on as a country. You see, but Sena, some of those people who are also going around making those comments, and I think that even at our own individual or group level, we just sometimes condemn some of those comments because they are comments that will not inure to the benefit of the country. And sometimes you wonder even where they are coming from with those comments, but that is not the stand of where we are, because there's a dispute and both parties have rights. The electoral commissions have declared in favor of the MPP, President Anabidan Kwaku-Ado, but NDC felt that is not the best way. There has been fraud, they have been cheated. It is for them, he who alleges must prove. That is the basic principle. So, but you can also take that away from them. But yesterday, Chairman, I still want to confirm. I saw some news outline, the defense, a committee of defense, Chairman asking, but I don't want to believe that those comments. But some of those, then I asked myself, why can't a responsible person make such a comment? Because even when you go to other jurisdictions, MPs who are not even at the status of a flag bearer can cause a stir in terms of even those in government try to arrest him and all those things. So, and I think that people are just joking, but they seem not to appreciate or know some of those comments if they try to carry it, the trouble it can cause in this country. But now, I want to ask my brother and the NDC party, there are issues you want to resolve. You want the issues to resolve. You like Ghana. And there's a step. And an example has shown. Kumre said the demonstrations will continue. That's what Honorable Mutala said. Fine, is there right? But I want to ask my brother, you have used court system to resolve the issue of Sene West. In your favor, it is good. That is what the court felt, this party were right. So why can't you use the court system for the others? And even at the presidential level, so that together all of us can have peace of mind. So that I'm coming. No, but you can come. No, but you see, at a point, my brother, no, you see, in losing election, bro, even at the small level, class preferred level, you lose his pain. But that doesn't make sure, that doesn't mean that the class should not be there. If the class is not there, and tomorrow you now become a class preferred, who are you going to superintend over? So the interest of the country supersede any other or any group interest. That is where we should be looking at. And your rights are respected. Nobody is saying you shouldn't go on demonstration. Maybe you are living here, you will join them. But I'm here to see my sister taking part in this. No, but I want to know whether she will be there tomorrow.
Why won't she be there?
Okay, I will watch TV and see if I'm seeing on the street demonstrating. So it's all right. But now, what will that resolve your issue? Will that resolve, Senior? Will that resolve the issue? Yes. Okay. No, we are there to see. So, but I also think on the parliamentary aspect, I think that it is going to be difficult for the New Patriotic Party, the president, was from 169 members of parliament in 2017 to 2020, and that maybe governments were able to get some of its policies sailed through parliament, getting parliamentary approval. At this time now, it is just almost tied and maybe a little difference. And I have listened to the president in his victory speech that Ghanaians want the MPP and the NDC to work together and save this country. And that is where we are now. Mutala, we have no option than to work together in parliament. And you are representing your people for the interests of Tamale Central, not your own personal interest. So you have to work to improve Ghana. So if you want to take your party colors first and then you go there, then we can only wait and see what will happen.
I'm being told I'm running out of time, so thank you.
Why are you cutting me? Why are you cutting me short? But let me conclude. You draw my attention. Then because anyway, didn't even tell me what is 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
No, I did say.
You've already wasted 2 minutes running commentary.
That is my time.
Yeah, still running commentary.
That is my time. So it's not two way. It's going to be difficult, but I know definitely, as things put in proper shape, there will be cooperation, there will be consensus, and there will be that kind of lobbying all over. And we want to see, but it's really going to be tough. It's really going to be tough.
Thank you.
You see, he's laughing, so it's really going to be tough. So you're happy. You're happy.
But do you want to see pictures of me demonstrating? Or you think I don't go for demonstrations?
No, but you say you are continuous, so you need to.
The last parliament, the one that ends this January next year, and this new one, currently a little over 100 MPs have fallen for over 270 something house, and almost a third of them fallen. I think that the message to the political class is actually very clear, that the people expect more from their leadership, not just at the national level, but at the constituency level. It started when the NPP folks, candidates, went for primaries, and you saw so many heavyweights just falling. Even though the party made an effort to try and hold on to some few untouchables, at the general election, they still met their fate there. And I think there's a wake-up call to every politician representing a constituency, that you have to pay attention to your constituents and then do what is expected of you, because in 4 years' time, they'll vote you out. Now, the split, the split was not planned. For me, it's just a stroke of fate that has brought us to this juncture, and whether Ghanaians want the parliamentarians to work together or not, I'm interested in one thing, for accountability's sake. Because the last parliament, with the majority MPP, passing Ameri, passing Ejapa, passing all these dubious, corrupt agreements, we come and sit on TV and talk, and nothing happens. Thanks to Martin Amudi, he saved the day for us on Ejapa. But I'm very excited that the next parliament, there's going to be a lot of cross-checking mechanism from both sides. And the current administration is not going to have it easy at all. They will now have to find a way, the same way they want any people to be compromising on this election. They now have to find a way from their side to be compromising. Because I don't see how you can bring a corrupt deal like another Ejapa to the floor of parliament and expect the minority to just pass it like that. I'm very excited about the split and how difficult is this for this administration, not this administration, since they want to continue with the government. I'm very sure that we'll turn the page, they'll go for another election very soon anyway. But for this particular, whoever is in charge from 2021, I'm very excited that they are going to meet this kind of parliament. The exciting times ahead.
Thank you.
Sena, I would suggest that even in voting in the House, it should be done open voting. If you have such a split, no matter what happens in whether you run or whatever the case is. Because there isn't any institution that is insulated from corruption in this country any longer. And your own members cannot be insulated.
Kind of leadership that this parliament would have. If this parliament ends up with leaders who believe in deal making, and I emphasize deal making, the country will be sold for a song. Because obviously nothing can happen in this parliament without, and if it's a leadership of deal making, especially when the national interest is ignored, we are in big trouble. Look, no matter who becomes president, he has a huge handicap. Don't forget that the Constitution insists that 50% of ministers should be members of parliament. And any president today, given our current reality, will have a hard time ensuring that at every time Parliament is going to vote, his ministers are all in Parliament. It's impossible. Even if they had equal numbers on each side, the mere fact that a lot of them are going to be ministers presents a huge problem and a disadvantage to the president, whoever he is. Whether it is Nana Akufo-Addo or John Mahama, he has a problem. So this is a factor that, we have to look at very closely. Then there's the case of the committees, how the committee is going to work. How the committee is going to work. If the committees are going to have equal membership, who and who are going to chair the committees? And in fact, how will committee votes go? Total chaos. What we have is total chaos. And unless the two political parties are willing to work together in the national interest in Parliament, we should forget it. So all this posturing, and insults and so on, they should be very careful. This immature young men and women who have somehow been thrown into political leadership, they should watch it. They can't see what is happening. They are standing on political platforms and receiving applause because they are insulting people that they themselves never dreamt they will come close to in anything. You understand? Calling them crybabies and so on. When the reality is that no matter who is the president, if we don't have a certain level of cooperation and so on, this country is running aground. And you know something, Sena? We are in deep trouble. Only 2 days ago, I read a report which shows that the Ghanaian economy is still contracting.
And a recession. Recession.
The Ghanaian economy is contracting. We are heading towards a recession. In fact, if we don't take care, we will reach the Zambian situation. Have you heard about the Zambian situation? Zambia has been internationally declared bankrupt, and we are getting there. No matter who wins, who becomes president eventually on January 7th, we are faced with the possibility of returning to Dumso again. All the independent power producers are saying that they are going to shut down their plants because we can't pay them. We owe them $1.7 billion. And it doesn't matter whether Akufo-Addo is the president or John Mahama is the president, that problem has to be solved. You understand? We are in deep crisis. Our debt level has reached unsustainable levels. That's a fact. National revenue is woefully inadequate. The budget deficit is getting bigger and bigger, and so on. So you stand on the platform and be insulting people you need to help you out of your problem. And let's see what will happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a message from Kojo Chumbuafo, who says, a so-called senior journalist who has been part of demonstrations from Unigaf to Komipeko sat on TV and said the NDC is simply engaging in a keep fit exercise, or some keep fit exercises has enforced change. Those NDC people who are being taken in about the nonsense of going to court to satisfy some so-called peace-seeking, selfish individuals must be ashamed of themselves. Mujib, you want peace of mind, but you send soldiers to go and kill people who just want to protect their vote. Take a good guess as to why many in this country have no confidence in the judiciary. Comrade Gabi, please, the NDC in the next parliament are not in a minority. With the Guan by-election coming up, the NDC will have the majority. That is from Kojo Chumbuafo. A big thing. Let me announce that next week, the show on Boxing Day will happen in the premises of Pan-African Television. So it will be open to members of the public to be a part of. So you can come and watch, and also you have opportunity to contribute and make comments as part of the show. So it will be in the premises of Pan-African Television. And you can be here.
ALHAJI and ALHAJI next week is open to everybody. Everybody and anybody who wants to be part of ALHAJI and ALHAJI, come to Pan-African Television. There'll be microphones for you. You can say what you want. You can ask questions. Be part of ALHAJI and ALHAJI next week. Finish.
Thank you.
Saying Abba.
Well, so that is it. So you can come here. Everybody is open to all of
Next
you.
week,
Yeah,
9
next
o'clock
week.
in the morning,
Next
Saturday, ALHAJI and ALHAJI is open to the public, open to everybody and anybody. Come and join us.
Thank you. And that's Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., who is managing editor of the Inside newspaper. You also had Member of Parliament elect for Tamale Central, Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. And then you had Mujib Rahman, is a member of the MPP's communication team. Gabriela Tete is also a member of the NDC's communication team. My name is Sena. Nombo, a big thank you to the team here at Pan-African Television for the wonderful work they did on production. We are back same time next week. Enjoy the rest of the weekend and the rest of your week. Merry Christmas, by the way.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana show more.